Alrighty, and this week we are going to be working on chicken bacon ranch pasta. So let's get over to that. Alrighty, now to start off your chicken bacon ranch pasta, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to defrost some chicken breasts. This one's going to be a bit big, so pasta's going to be a little extra chickeny, but that's okay. And then what you're going to do is you're going to fill a nice large mixing bowl up with some cool water, like that. And then you're just going to take your chicken breasts, you're going to make sure they're bagged. I use a Ziploc with a little zip thing, but it doesn't really matter as long as they're in a plastic bag. You're just going to set them in there. You're going to let them sit for about 2 hours, changing out the water roughly every half hour or so. So I will see you all then.
2 hours later.
Okay, and now once your chicken here is nice and defrosted, you're just going to pour out the water it was sitting in. And then you're going to get your cutting board and your knife. Like so. And you are going to cut these chickens into smaller strips. This step is totally optional, I will add. I'm just taking this due to the size of the breasts that I have, but if you have some smaller, more moderate ones, you'll only have to cut them up just a little bit.
12 seconds later.
Alrighty. And then once you have that chicken all cut up like that, you are going to get started on cooking your bacon. So I will see you then. Now, I personally prefer pan frying my bacon compared to throwing it in the oven, but whatever works best for you works best. Just adjust accordingly. Now, mine's already frozen a bit due to me opening this package a couple days ago. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my burner on high. That'll help with getting the defrosting for the strips here done. Let's see how many. Yeah, it's roughly 4. So for this step, you're going to want around 4 strips of bacon. However, since I'm kind of eyeballing it here, a little bit over 4 will be fine. You'll just have a little bit of an extra bacony meal today. And so what you're going to do here is you're just going to fry your bacon until it reaches a desired level of crispiness, whether that is very crispy or just above cooked. That's up to you, of course. So I will see you all once this is finished. Okay, so now once your bacon has reached the desired level of crispiness and is cooked through, what you're going to want to do is you're going to cover those bacon strips with a paper towel. You're going to leave them be for a few minutes. And then you're going to pour out all but 2 tablespoons of the bacon grease from your pan. Now, I personally don't eyeball it. what I do instead is I get a spoon. And a bowl. And I take a few spoonfuls of the bacon grease. Hopefully you can see that. And I just pour them straight into the bowl. Putting myself inside that, that's fine. 4 spoonfuls should be enough, depending on your size of spoon. And then you're just going to pour out the rest of it into your sink, like so. And then with your heater off, with your stove off, I should say, you're going to just take the bowl that has that bacon grease, return the grease to the pan, and then and then what you're going to do is you are going to return the skillet to a medium-high heat, and you are going to layer on those chicken pieces in a single layer. So, like so. You're going to let each piece cook on its side for about 2 to 3 minutes. And then you're going to flip it to the other side. So in this case, since I have a few too many chicken breasts, I'm just going to do this in batches here. But you're just going to do it like so. Let them cook. And then once they start to develop a kind of golden texture on the bottom, a little bit like that, you'll just want to flip them over to the other side. Give it another 30-45 seconds on the skillet here. yeah, once both sides start to attain a kind of lightly tanned white look to them with a golden stripe through typically, what you'll want to do if you have too many is just transfer your currently cooking batch to a little alternate storage location for a few moments. That one might need to cook a few moments longer. And then you'll just toss on your other batch here. Just for a couple minutes. We'll just check on them periodically throughout, see which is getting cooked the best, which ones may need a little bit of separate attention. But then, once you get to roughly that 2-minute mark, you're just going to start flipping. Alrighty, and then once all your chicken pieces are cooked through, you'll just transfer them over to the plate with the other pieces, and then we're going to get started on the next step, so I'll see you right then. Okay, and so for the next step here, what you're going to do is you are going to make 3 cups of chicken broth. So let me just get the water into the microwave here. You're going to want these cups to be nice and warm. So I'm going to let that sit in the microwave for about a minute. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take some dill weed, garlic powder, onion powder, and dried parsley flakes. And you're going to want to add those to the chicken as well as some black pepper and some rotini pasta. So once the broth gets fully made here, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, in this case, put your chicken back into the pan, and then you're going to add the 3 cups of broth and about half the box of rotini in my case, and you'll just let that cook along with all the herbs and spices here. That'll ensure that it gets a nice chickeny flavor while also having other tastes such as, you know, dill, garlic, and onion. So now that our water is ready, bring it right back. Don't worry if there's a little bit of spillage. The number doesn't really need to be precise. And then what I personally do is I just take a tablespoon or a teaspoon or 6, given the amount of water here. That ensures that the chicken flavor really penetrates and doesn't get diluted by the amount of water. 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then once you've got your chicken broth made, what you'll want to do is you'll want to take a fork and you're going to want to stir up the little particles of chicken broth there, just to really ensure that the mix gets all the way through and that nothing really gets left behind. So you're just going to do it like that. And then what you're going to want to do now is going back over to your pan. You're going to take your chicken, just going to pour all that back in there. You're going to pour your chicken broth over top, like so. You'll take your half box of rotini pasta. Doesn't need to be exactly half a box, but around half a box is what I personally do. Yeah, about that much right there. And then while this recipe does provide measurements for what you want to do for each of the spices, I personally say just go all in, kind of eyeball it, do as much as you want, just because it really helps some of the flavors penetrate through the chicken and the broth and really ensures that you're able to taste them as the meal gets finished. So it's probably enough onion powder there. Add our garlic powder. It's probably a little too much there. Then our dill weed. And our parsley flakes. Like that. And then what you're going to do after that is you are going to bring the burner to high heat, so highest it'll go, and then you are just going to start stirring. This will ensure that all those spices really get through and aren't just trapped on the topmost layers of the chicken and pasta, or water broth in this case. And what you're going to do is you are going to bring this to a boil. So once it starts bubbling, then what you're going to do once it starts bubbling is you're going to put a lid over the top of your pasta mixture, and then once it is bubbling, at least we're going to do that, and then you're going to drop the heat to a medium. So for example, I have this lid here, slots over my skillet almost perfectly. Only a small gap in some sides, but not massive, not a big concern. but you are just going to let this start to cook. Oh, goodness. Don't worry about spillages, anything like that. So long as they aren't too major, you should be fine. Just be sure to wipe them up shortly thereafter, as you don't want to have to deal with all the herbs settling into the stove and causing a mess. As you can start to see, especially right there in the center, it's starting to get to bubble up. And then once that really spreads across, then you're going to want to get started with adding the lid and getting the rest of the mixture situated. Alright, now once it starts to bubble there, again, you just give it one last good stir. You add the lid, and you are going to let it sit there for about 12 minutes. So I will see you back in a minute. Now, while the chicken cooks, we're going to engage in a little side quest here. What you're going to want to do, you'll uncover your bacon there. It should be nice and crispy, depending on how crispy you want it to be. It should be nice and easy, or maybe a little bit more difficult. You are just going to start crumbling that all up with your hands. So, kind of like that. And depending on how cooked it is, you can just grab a bite or two of it. But you'll want them to be nice and fairly small pieces, nothing too big. And then you can just cover those back up, and we are going to save those for later. Alright, so once you've had that cooking for about 12 minutes there, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add some frozen peas. I don't really give an exact measurement on this either. I just kind of eyeball it, and then you're just gonna give it a couple of stirs. Make sure to break up any clumps, as well as to get them all nice and spread out throughout the pan there. And then you're gonna let this cook until the pasta is nice and tender and most of the water has been absorbed. So about another 15 to 17 minutes with the lid back on, and then we're gonna pick up right around then. See you. I will add, for clarification, if you don't like peas, or you just prefer not having them in meals like this, you can skip the peas step. You'll just have your pasta and chicken cooking on the oven for 29 to 30 minutes roughly. Okay, and now that our 15 minutes are up, what you're going to do is you're going to lower the heat down to low. You're going to give it a little bit of an extra stir or two. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add some cheddar cheese. Again, you can just kind of eyeball it, whatever amount you prefer to go in there. I prefer to have a decent amount just so I can keep it nice and spread out over the whole thing. You're going to add 1/3 of a cup of half and half. Like that. like to kind of spread it out over the whole meal, but however you do it, it's up to you, of course. And then what you're gonna do is you are going to add some Hidden Valley Ranch. Just kind of drizzle that up on top. Any brand of ranch will do. I just have Hidden Valley on hand, of course. And then what you're gonna do lastly, or second to lastly, so you're going to take your bacon, some of it, not all of it, and you are just going to drizzle that over your meal, like so. You'll give it a little bit of a stir. This will ensure that things like the cheese and the bacon get nice and spread out through the meal and aren't just isolated to a single location. Okay, and then you are gonna put the lid back on and you're gonna let it sit for 5 more minutes. So we will pick up when we get there. All right, and then once those 5 minutes are up, you'll just take the cover off, turn off your burner, maybe give it one more good stir for good measure. And then that is that. So with this here, what you can do is you can store it in an airtight container in the freezer for up to 3 months, or alternatively, you can let it sit in your fridge for about 4 days. And that was chicken bacon ranch pasta. I will see you all next time. Goodbye.